Hey, you guys, today I am coming to you with kind of like a bit of a heavy heart. I'm a little overwhelmed by the response that I received from a podcast episode that I refer to as Old People Wisdom. I want to start off by kind of like, I guess the word would be repenting, or sort of taking a second look at what I've said. Because I think that I was absolutely incorrect about something. And that thing is a very important thing that kind of shapes culture. I was incorrect about old people being the dominant carriers of wisdom. I didn't realize that the way that I was raised around a load of church mothers. I was raised at the altar. I have a song where I talk about being raised on the pew. My mother was a choir director. I was raised in the four walls of the church. I was the one who was doing my homework in the back row of the church as a little girl on Friday nights because mom had to teach the choir. I was the one who was kneeling next to my mom during prayer service in the dark on a random Wednesday, listening to my mother pray to the Lord. That's what I was raised around. That is the milk that I was raised on. It is who I am. And to me, growing up, that looked like old people. It looked like I was raised around wrinkles. But when I made the post on my social media about bringing wisdom back, I was literally inundated with DMs, phone calls, text messages, and comments in the comment section about how there is a young generation. I'm talking Gen Zers. I'm talking millennials. I'm not even talking just baby boomers. I'm talking even Gen X. I'm talking, there is a group of young people who have a burden to carry and distribute wisdom, and they feel muzzled, muffled, ignored, set aside, unheard, unseen, rejected. There was so much sentiment in the comment sections about this overwhelming feeling of, I have wisdom, here I am. I have wisdom and I want to share it. But when I open up my mouth to say what is in my heart, to give to people for correction, for critique, for growth, for aid, this generation's ears are turned off. That word, generation, is where it gets tricky. People keep saying this generation, and I thought at first when I heard people saying this generation, they meant a specific age group. What they actually mean is this era. They mean in this time in history. People's ears are turned off. I know that I have the truth to share. I know that I have the truth to give. But people's ears are turned off. There are people with this gift, whether it be the gift of knowledge or what one might call the gift of wisdom, that comes from a divine impartation that does not necessarily match the experience, the age, the places this person have been. It's solely and simply something that has been injected into their heart. They were just born that way, with this cry to love people, to lift people, to help people, to walk with people. Imagine carrying that burden. We see that burden on Sarah Jakes. Roberts. We see that burden on Mel Robbins. We see that burden on so many of the people who are shouting from behind a microphone, and we're wondering, why are they shouting? Why do they get so almost irate, like a righteous indignation about saying what it is that they have to say? And it's because that wisdom is bleeding from their soul. There are many of you who that wisdom bleeds from your soul. And when I got into these comment sections, I saw the blood. And my heart sank. My heart broke because I was incorrect. I was looking at the elders and just the elderly. I was looking at experiential wisdom and experiential knowledge, and not this divine impartation of, I know which way you should go. This divine impartation of, hey, listen, I can help. This divine impartation of, I have the answer for you. If you would just stop and humble yourself, I could help. That lives in a 25-year-old. That lives in a 34-year-old. That lives in a 17-year-old. That lives in a 52-year-old. That is not just the wisdom of the elderly. So I apologize because it really hit. Somebody said in the comments, Chrisette, don't you know that you're wise too? And just because you haven't figured everything out doesn't mean that you aren't wise. The fact that you've fallen down and are getting up and are always feeling like you're falling down and getting up is what has built your experiential wisdom. And I had to humble myself to that comment. Let's say, you know what? If I am wise, and if so many young people are wise, then what's the disconnect? What am I missing? What am I not understanding? And what I think the disconnect is that it's not that there aren't wise young people. It's that wise young people have shut their mouths. I want to get into some of the comments that some people have left on the comment section and in my DMs. I've screenshotted a few of them. I think I'll leave the names out. I don't want to, embarrass anybody. This seemed to be a very sensitive subject. I was not expecting it. As a matter of fact, when we recorded this episode, I was laughing a lot. I actually thought it was kind of a funny subject. I almost didn't record it because I was saying to myself, old people wisdom, that's the most ridiculous title. I think I even said it in the episode, like, guys, forgive me for choosing this foolishness. But apparently it wasn't foolishness. So here is one comment, and I think I'm going to go through 4 comments and 2 questions. But here's one of the comments. It says, as a Gen Xer who has experienced this and a leader in my local church, Gen Z is a lot more aware of the language we have equipped them with. Trauma, triggers, safe and soft space. That correction now requires sensitivity to time and place and past trauma that requires self-censorship. Where we have failed is transforming that awareness into knowledge. They know a little about a lot. That requires us to take the time to build authentic relationships because they do need the lessons we've collected along the way. They're open to the wisdom. It requires us to accept where we may not have done so well in raising them. They didn't raise themselves, and figure out how we can meet them where they are. Maybe a good starting point is transforming the way we see them. What has worked for me is remembering how I also thought I knew it all, and how those church mothers were intuitive enough to see beyond that tough exterior and love on me. That earned them the right to drape me up in their wisdom. What I'm hearing in this comment, and that really sticks out to me, is language. I'm going to say this generation, or I'm going to say this era. This era has been given so much language in the behavioral science space, in the psychology space, in the mental health and well-being space, that when it comes time to talk in spiritual terminology, they're kind of stuck in worldly terminology that doesn't always address spiritual health. And so here you come, this wise person, this person with this wisdom who wants to address spiritual issues, character traits, character flaws, little holes in your walk in the Holy Spirit. And you have to have all of these terms memorized, all of these mental health terms memorized. I come from a family, as you guys may know, of mental health advocates. My mother, like I've told you before, was a behavioral scientist. She studied psychology. My dad studied both psychology, sociology, and also the two of them studied special education. So I come from a world where I heard both the spiritual and the worldly terminology in order to impact the wisdom space. So I hear what you're saying fully here is, you're going into the church now to talk to young people. You're bringing them the wisdom, the faith-based knowledge that you have, but you have to sort of candy coat it with all of these mental health words. What do you guys think about that? What is it like having to talk about wisdom in today's language? Is it the need to get a whole entire new degree just to be able to bring the truth to somebody? We talked a little bit about in the comment sections life coaching and how many of you are life coaches wanting to teach people wisdom, and you've had to go and literally get degrees and get certificates in the life coaching space in order to have the language. And because you've spent so much of your money and your time getting these certificates, now you're charging to pour wisdom into people. And it's this conflict or this inner conflict which is, should I be charging to life coach when really what I want to do is give wisdom? And what is the value on coaching when my heart is after sharing wisdom? Really hard subject. Really hard subject. You're burdened with wanting to give. You're burdened with wanting to lift and to help and to share. You've had to go to school to master this terminology. And really all you want to tell somebody is, if you get in your face, if you be brave enough to fast and pray for this amount of time, if you would get rid of that friend, because you can see all of this stuff, but you've got to come with the coaching terminology. You got to come with the mental health books and the wellness coaching and so you call it faith-based coaching, because you want people to know there's wisdom over here. I'm trying to say it in your language. I spent all my resources getting this knowledge. I'm asking for a fee. But really what I want to give is wisdom. Language. Another comment said this. Let me see if I can get back in here. This one says, I am an auntie, and I know that the wisdom I share falls on deaf ears. I heard that 1,000 times in the comments, by the way. I think the disconnect has been because too many aunties talk it but don't walk it. This one is intense. You talk it but you don't walk it, which has put us in a box. I am the product of a church mother interceding at the altar until my life changed. I wish that for so many, but now it's popular to be crunk in the church and not discipled. I'm going to tell you the truth. After reading however many hundreds of comments, I commented back, this is a word, I hear you fully, so profound. And that's when I decided to do this podcast in this style of sort of sharing the comments and sharing my thoughts on them and creating some food for thought. Discipleship was the word that really punctured my soul. I mean, I couldn't even think about what I wanted to talk about for the next podcasts until I addressed that word, discipleship. There's mentorship, there's therapy, and there's discipleship. There's good counsel, and then there's discipleship. Discipleship is when we address someone's discipline lifestyle. What in your life are you doing to build discipline so that you can have a holy lifestyle? That's not a mentorship program. That's not a self-help book. That is me literally looking at your life as your leader, as your accountability partner, as your sister in faith, and being honest and real about the things that I see in your life then are not adding up to who you're saying you are in Christ. Discipleship. Are we brave enough to build disciples who we're brave enough to say, hey, sis, that's a little off? Are we brave enough to be disciple and have somebody say to us, hey, sis, you're making a left where you should make a right? Are we open to discipleship? The cry is not just about, hey, I'm the wise person and I'm young and I've got this wisdom that I want to give. But the other side of it is, who's willing to be discipled? This hurts my soul. Maybe I'm guilty, right? Maybe I've lived a public life for 20 years where I've been this public figure who has been able to go on to social media to hundreds of thousands of followers and say anything that I want at any time and go into the comment section. And when somebody says something wrong, I get to call them a hater. I get to say that person is against me because they don't agree with what I say. Maybe that is the culture that we've created so that we are now unable to be discipled. So that now we go back to our small four walls churches. And because social media and the platform that we've built with 30,000 followers allows us to say and do whatever we want and will praise us for it and will pay us for it. When we come back to Sunday morning, you can't tell me what to do. Are we undiscipleable? That one hit home for me. It really made me think. Are we submitting to leadership? Are we allowing people to show us where we're whack, where we're wilding? I don't know. It's a tough one. I want to say this person's name, but I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Comment number 3, and there were a bazillion. I promise I, again, really tried to pick and choose wisely. This person, I'm not going to say their name, but apparently they are a therapist. The word therapist is in their name. And they say, this is very interesting. I'm getting a little lump in my throat. This is very interesting. I had to listen to it a few times because it hit me deeply. She was referring to the clip that I had posted. I do agree that people are not offering up their wisdom, expertise, and journeys for free. But as a woman in my early 40s, I try to give out information often. I think it's rejected because a lot of times people have their minds already made up about the answer they want to receive. They don't really want wisdom. They want the validation that they were already right. That's the first half of her comment. People want, I'm going to say it again, their minds are already made up about the answer they want to receive. They don't really want wisdom. They want the validation that they were already right. Are we putting up posts? Are we putting up blogs, vlogs? Are we posting up things to say what I think is absolute? And if you come from my words, don't at me. If you come from my thoughts, if you come from my ideas, I'm going to come back at you hard with what's the word I'm looking for? Defense. Are we fully exposed yet fully defensed? Are we putting ourselves out there, but there's a brick wall up at the same time? Are we making these beautiful branding and beautiful outfits and beautiful makeup and hair? Are we coming fully gorgeous so everybody can be attracted to us? But God forbid you don't agree with me. You call me out. I came here with my mind made up. My statement was not for you to debate. My statement was for you to tell me I am correct. Otherwise, I'm all defense. I'm no softness. I'm no gentleness. The second half of her comment says, they don't really want wisdom. They want validation that they were already right. And here's the part that breaks my heart. And guys, I didn't write this stuff. Apparently, y'all's heart was as broken as mine. The next part says, this does not encourage them to change and step outside of themselves to grow. This person's heart is broken about that. I really feel that wisdom, if truly and genuinely sought after, can still be acquired freely in this world by those who genuinely seek it for free. Also, people's attention span is so short these days. Even a long social media caption will lose focus these days. But that's where wisdom can be found for free. So yeah, there are wise people out there dying to share their wisdom, wishing to share their wisdom, and looking at people crash and burn and saying, man, I wanted to tell you, but you didn't have an ear to hear. All right, so that's that third comment. And then I think I'm going to read one more, and then I'm going to move to this other part. Let me see if I can find the one. Oh, this one is, okay. 1.5. I'm not going to say your name, but I talk to you back and forth in the DM all the time. You know who you are. Says this. Maybe they are still around, but afraid to speak up. She's talking about wise people. Maybe they are still around, but afraid to speak up because the young people don't heed instruction and correction too kindly these days. They label those people as nosy and in their business. Maybe the wise no longer feel valued. Maybe the wise no longer feel freedom because we aren't creating a safe space for the wise like we used to. They no longer have that sacred platform in most churches due to innovation and not wanting to seem traditional. She said, I came from an era where I used to crave their wisdom and look forward to constructive criticism. Right? Didn't you used to get so excited about this church mother or this person is gonna get you together, and you would leave and say, y'all got us all the way together today. You know, or did you receive all that meat this morning? Pause. Right? You come into service excited about shifting and changing and growing and evolving. They would get you together in a heartbeat, but were your biggest cheerleaders. These little old ladies, they were a refuge for sure. Most of mine have departed from the earth, and no one stepped up to fill their positions. God. Sorry. She said no one stepped up to fill those positions. The wise in her life departed. This person is under 40. I think she's 35, if I remember correctly. No one stepped up to fill the positions of the wise departed. I didn't want to think this, right? Because I have a lot of responsibilities. Right? I'm a singer. I literally am on the road constantly. That is my job, to sing and create productions on the road. But if no one has filled the positions of the wise departed, then what are we doing? Like, all of you who are wise, all of us who are wise, all of those who have that deep inner knowing, that deep need to lift and to share and to groom and to help people grow. When are we going to get brave enough to open up our mouths? And does that bravery happen on social media and in books and in podcasts and in places where people can see it outside of the four walls of our churches? Or does that inner knowing happen in private, in the four walls of the churches where no one can see it, except for those who crave wisdom? Does that wisdom happen on YouTube every Sunday morning when Mike Todd takes the stage, when Stephen Furtick takes the stage? Is it televised? Is it YouTubeized? Is it Netflixized? Many of my Christian friends are coming out with Christian movies. Where does wisdom take its microphone? Does wisdom take a microphone? What do we say about Megan Ashley? What do we say about the wise? Where do they speak out? Where do they make their noise? Where do they correct? Where do they critique? Where do they disciple? Where do the leaders speak? That's my burden today. That's my curiosity today. It even has me disheveled about where to go next with podcasting. Is this the place for wisdom? Is this the place where I share what's on the inside of my heart? Or do I have to sugarcoat it in a song only? Do I have to sugarcoat it in a book only, in a poem only? Did God give us our different giftings and our different talents and our different skill sets to tuck wisdom on the inside of it and hand that out? And those who are seeking wisdom and knowledge be able to pull it out. Think of some of your favorite songs from your favorite wise artists. What were the lyrics where the wisdom was tucked away in? Where you might turn the song on and you might be bopping your head, you might be dancing. But when you really sit there and hear the words, you're being fed. Is that where wisdom goes, tucked away inside of the talent and the skill set that we've been given? Or is it loudly broadcast? I'll be completely transparent. Today, in this moment, I am conflicted. After reading all of your comments and seeing how deeply you guys believe that wisdom still exists and how deeply you guys really want to disciple people, it makes me wonder, where are the disciples and where are their leaders? And is it broadcast? Do we see it? Is it a movement, or is it quiet? How does wisdom show up in the world? How does discipleship show up in the world? How do disciples show up in the world? I think the answers to this question or these questions are easy. I'm posing them as curiosity because I really, really want you guys to engage in this conversation. I really want to hear what you have to say. My heart has been ripped to shreds. And I really, really want to create a conversation around that ripping because I think that there is some growing to do for all of us. I think this is the beginnings of shaping and making and creating where wisdom goes in our generation, in this era. I think you guys were adamant and serious about being heard in those comments, and I wanted to bring them to light. Before I go, there is, I just simply said in my stories, I said, what do you guys think? And I just want to share a little bit about what you guys said about the podcast. They were quick, simple, sweet answers. One person said, truth and wisdom, talk your talk, sis. Encouraging, right? Somebody else said, a sad truth. Somebody else said, you better preach, better book that session for wisdom. And what they were talking about was sitting with the life coach who is wise. Instead of sitting with the life coach, sit with that wise person, sit with that discipleship pastor, sit with that person in your church and treat it as you would a mentorship session. Somebody else said, I agree. Gen Z and millennials must understand. However, they won't find that on their phones. So what this person was saying, and you guys be putting typos up in this piece, but what this person was saying was wisdom is not this thing that you scroll on Instagram. It's not this thing you go in to Instagram and find. It's this thing that you go to your church and find. So I cannot wait to hear what you guys think about somebody else. This hurts my heart. I have so many questions to ask and nobody to ask them to. The situation in my DMs is or was Do I find wisdom here in social media and scrolling with life coaches and following mental health experts and mental wellness and well-being people? Or do I got to find a little old lady in the four walls of a church somewhere? Where are you finding your wisdom? Where is wisdom broadcast? Is wisdom broadcast? Is it a movement? Is it loud? Is it quiet? Is it humble? Is it big? What does it look like in 2025? I love you guys so much, and thank you for bearing with me through this particular podcast episode. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go from here because I've got a lot to think about. I learned a lot this week, but I love you for hanging out with me. Love you. Peace.